We're almost done last time. We're going to move on a little bit, switch gears. We're going to get away from addition subtraction for just a little while. We'll come back to it at the end of this section. But for right now, we're going to start, if you're keeping track, on section 1.4. We're going to talk about how to round, like rounding numbers. Now, you're probably wondering, why in the world do we round numbers in the first place? Well, sometimes we don't need to be as specific or precise for certain instances. Like let's go back to the baseboard example again. Do I need to go up to Home Depot and say, I need precisely 18.384627 feet of baseboards? Do I need to be that exact? Probably just need to go, yeah, I need 17 feet or 18 feet. I'll cut off a little bit. Does that make sense to you? So I'm rounding there. I'm not going to use the exact amount I need right at that moment. Later on, yeah, I'm going to use that. But not right when I go into Home Depot. We round all the time. What I want to make sure is that you are rounding appropriately. You see, rounding in mathematics is quite important because if we round incorrectly, our final answer is going to be way off, especially when you get higher into mathematics. Because here, right now, for here, we pretty much just have one-step problems right now. Or you're just rounding. But in the future, what you're going to be doing, you're going to be rounding and then using that number. And then rounding and using that number again. So if you're incorrect in your rounding, do you see how your problem or your error multiplies itself? You're going to be way off at the end. This is especially true of statistics. How many people know they have to take statistics? If you are going to transfer, you have to take statistics. Did you know that? So if you plan on transferring, you're going to be taking statistics at some time. If not, it's a great class for you to take. It talks all about things that we use every day, like poles. Not like poles, but like, what do you think about this? You know, you see those on the news all the time. We talk about that in statistics. So if you're going to take that class, rounding's a big part of that. So I'm going to make sure we know how to round correctly, because we'll be using it in this class and future classes. So if you're keeping track, 1.4, we're going to talk about rounding and estimating. So rounding is really a way to approximate a number. We're just taking it down a notch because we don't have to be as precise as in certain situations. So let's see if we can round this number to the nearest 10,000. When they say the nearest, something that means you're going to round to that place value. Remember talking about place values yesterday? Remember that? Yes, no?
Yeah.
No. Okay, tell me real quick, what is the 8's place value up here? What is the 5's place value?
10.
How about the 2?
100,000.
Great, okay, we're going to round to the 10,000 here. Round this number to the nearest. That right there says you're rounding 10,000. That tells you what you're rounding to, what place value you're rounding to. Now typically what I do when I teach something that involves steps, I'll give you the steps off to the side so you can go back and kind of follow along and figure out what you did. So here's our steps on how to round. The first thing you're going to do, and this is why we had to be very good at place value, I want you to go back and underline the place value that you're dealing with. So in our case, when it says you're going to round to the nearest 10,000, go back to that number, just put a little underline under the 10,000's place, okay? So go ahead and try that on your paper now. I'll do it on the board in just a second. So underline the 10,000. What number is in the 10,000's place?
11.
Okay. Bam, so we got that right there. So underline the place value. The next thing you're going to do, this is the important part. This is where people get kind of screwed up sometimes in rounding. You're going to look at the digit just to the right of the place value underlined. Not further than that. You're going to look just at the digit to the right. I'm not talking about all this junk over here. If you're rounding to this place value, you're looking just at the 8. You don't even care about what these numbers are. Are you following me on this? Nod your head if you're following me on that. These are going to have no bearing whatsoever on your rounding here. You with me? Okay, so we're going to look at the place value just to the right. Not further than that. And here's how we use that information. We look at that place value to the right, and we compare it to the number 5. If it's 5 or higher, we're going to round the place value up. If it's lower than 5, that's like 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, we're going to leave that place value alone. So when we look over here, we're going to look at this digit. If this is 5 or more, we raise our place value up 1. If this is less than 5, we leave this place value alone. In either case, we follow this place value with all zeros. We don't have any more numbers after that. You still okay? So let me write that all out for you and then we'll do it. So we're underlining the place value. We're looking at the place value just to the right of that. If that digit, if the digit to the right is 5 or more, we raise our place value by 1. If the digit to the right is 5 or more, we're going to raise our place value 1 unit. Listen. If the digit to the right is less than 5, we leave that place value alone. However, in either case, what we're going to do is we're going to follow the place value with all zeros. That's what rounding does. It says these numbers, we just want to find out the nearest 10,000. We don't really care so much about the specifics. This happens a lot in business, like when you're talking deals and some guy goes, okay, well, what was your profit last year? And you go, oh, my profit was 3,861,254. Well, they don't really care about the whole 2054 thing, right? They want to know you earned $3.8 million. Isn't that about right? Really don't care about the pennies at the very end of that. Rounding happens all the time. We just need to know how to do it appropriately. So after all this, in either case, we're going to follow the place value with zeros. In either case, replace the digits to the right of the place value with zeros. Okay, let's give this a try for real then. So we've already underlined the place value, that's at 10,000s. We look to the digit to the right. If it's 5 or more, raise it up. If it's less than 5, we leave it alone. Are we going to raise this 7 up or not? What do you think? Yeah, why? Okay, so we don't look left, we look right. This is more than 5, so we're going to, does the 2 stay the same?
Yeah.
Yes.
What's the next digit I'm going to write?
8.
How about after that?
0. 0.
All zeros, just for the rest of it. And that's appropriately rounded. We're going to try a whole bunch more rounding. I'm going to give you most of it to do on your own. We'll go ahead and do a few together. Then I'll have you practice. Let's round these numbers to the nearest 10. We'll do 641 and 3,465. So the first thing we're looking for in this number is, where's the nearest 10? What's the place value that's in the 10? What digit are we looking at here?
4.
Are we going to leave that 4 alone, or are we going to raise that 4 up? What do you think?
Leave it alone.
Why are we going to leave it alone?
Because 1's less than
Okay.
5.
So tell me exactly what I need to write.
644.
Good. The 6 stays the same. The 4 in this case stays the same.
Followed by 0.
Perfect. Exactly right. Next one, we're still looking at the 10s. That means in our case, we're looking at the 6. Are we moving that 6 up, or are we leaving that 6 alone? Yeah, the 5 says move it up. So we'll have the 3, no problem. The 4, the 6 is going to go to,
7.
and then we follow it with zeros. How about we do to the nearest, let's try a couple of the thousands. Actually, why don't you give these a try? Try them on your own. I'm going to erase the other side of the board. Do these ones, identify the appropriate place value. See if it's good, if the place value is moving up or down by looking to the digit to the right. And then replace all those digits with zeros when you're done. If you're feeling spry, you want to try some other ones, let's do some hundreds. If you're done with those already, give these a try, and then I'll show you one error that a lot of people make, and we'll move on to estimating. I'll be walking around. If you do need any help, you just let me know.
Was it 100, right? Like not 100,000?
The one on the right is hundreds, yeah. Hundreds. You guys got your books yet? Okay, let's go back over to these thousands because we never did those. So on the thousands, of course we're going to identify the place value first. You should have underlined the 2. We say, according to our steps, look at the digit to the right. If it's 5 or more, raise it up. Less than 5, leave it alone. Either case, follow with zeros. So here, the 7, that stays. The 2, are we moving that up or leaving it alone? And either way, we're following it with zeros. We don't replace the 2 with zeros. That's why we underline that one, to make sure that stays the same or moves up a digit. You never make that a 0. You never replace it with a 0. On the next one, we underline our 9 here. The 2, again, that says 0. Leave that alone. So we should get 9,000 out of that. Did you get 9,000 out of that?
Yeah.
Awesome. Last one, we're looking at the 1 here. That's our place value. The 8 says you're going to move that 1 up a notch, 1 digit. 6, 7, 2, follow with zeros. How many were 3 for 3 on that? Good deal. Awesome. Okay, next over here, we're looking at hundreds. First one, the first hundreds is 4. Is that 4 going to move up, or is that 4 going to stay the same? So we'll have 3, 5, 0, 0. Now I have a question for you. Does this 5 make this 3 move up to a 4, or should I stop right here?
Stop right there.
Just stop right there. If I had asked for thousands, I would have asked for thousands. So we don't have to continuously round. Just do it one step, and then you're done. Okay, next one, we're looking at the 2. Is that 2 moving up or staying the same?
Staying the same.
According to that 4, yeah, it is. So we're going to have the 76,200. And lastly, I want to see if you got this one right. This is a good one. We're going to underline the 9. Because that's our hundreds. We look at the digit to the right, it's a 6. That 6 says we should move that 9 up a bit, but where does it go?
On the 8.
Okay, so what happens here is kind of like carrying when you're adding. What happens is this digit says that our place value needs to move up one notch, 1 digit, but it has no place to go. You've overloaded this place value, so you are going to make this a 0, but this one has to go up as well because you've overloaded it. It has to go somewhere. So here's what the answer should be. 9 stays the same. 7 stays the same. This has to go somewhere. This has to go up to 10. Do you see what I'm talking about? But you can't fit 10 in one spot, so you're carrying it. It's like you put the little 1 up there. That's essentially what you're doing. That becomes the 9, and then you follow that with zeros. How many people got that? Interesting. Good for you. If you didn't, well, now you know. Practice it next time. I do need to show you one mistake that often people make. I kind of talked about this on the grades the very first day of class. If I asked you to round this number to the thousands and gave you 6,495. We're talking about which digit here in the place value of the thousands?
6.
Here's what people do if they make a mistake on this. What people do is go, oh, okay, it's no problem. The 5 rounds the 9 to a 10. The 10 carries over to this 4. That becomes a 5. The 5 rounds a 6 to a 7. Do you see the error in logic there? We can't really do that. What we have to do is ignore these digits. We look just at the digit to the right. This actually rounds to 6,000. And if you think about it, if we're talking about the nearest 1,000 here, 495 is closer to 6,000 than it is to 7,000. Do you get that point? You can't just continuously round. That's not the way this works. We can't do that. How many people understood what I just talked about there? Good, all right. Well, we're done with rounding. Now, how we use rounding oftentimes is to estimate. And this is the way you do math quickly if you don't have to be so specific. So we'll take a moment, just a moment, to go over some estimating. There's really only one thing you need to know about estimating, and that's how to round. And it happens to be where to round. Do you round first, or do you round after you add or subtract? And the answer is, if you're going to estimate something, it really wouldn't do a whole lot of good to add it up and then round it. If you're going to estimate and you want to do it quickly, the idea is, let's round it first, make easier numbers, then add them up. Does that make sense to you? Okay, so if we're going to estimate here, we want to round first. and then we'll add or subtract. Don't do it the other way, otherwise you just waste time and effort. We don't want to do that. Let me give you one example real quick and then we'll move on. So let's say the problem said this. Had this, and it said, I want you to estimate this at the hundreds place value. Estimate at the hundreds. Estimate at the hundreds. What do you think I should do first? Should I add this all together and then round to the hundreds? Or should I round to the hundreds and then add it all together? If I want an exact answer, that's where you add, right? That's where you add it all together right now. If I'm just estimating, I want to know roughly how many hundreds I'm talking about, we're going to round first. That's what estimating is. It says round it first, and then add it together. So what I'd like you to do now is take some time, round each of these to the hundreds if you haven't done that already. Hey, what's our first value we should be adding? What'd you get?
300.
Perfect. How about the second one?
700.
Awesome. Next one?
1,000.
Very good. And lastly?
300.
300 or 400? What is that one?
300.
You don't do the 9 to the 5, the 5 to the 4, right?
No.
All right. Does that sound like a rap song almost? Not so much? Okay, let's add these up. See, the reason why we round first is so that we can create columns of zeros. That's nice. That means it's really quick for us. If you were to add this first and then round, you'd just be wasting a whole lot of time. If we were only caring about the hundreds anyway, this will do it for us. So zeros are very nice to add. This, we can create some tens out of it. 10 plus 4 is 14. Carry that 1. We have 2,400. It's rounded to the hundreds. Did you get 2,400?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, believe it or not, that was section 1.4. Just had us round and estimate. Remember, this first chapter, it's a lot of review. We're almost done with our review. We have just a couple more sections left. The next one we're going to talk about is how to multiply some whole numbers. We'll talk a little bit about area, which is very, well, not similar, but along the same lines as perimeter. We'll get on into dividing, order of operations, and then some variables, and that leads into chapter 2. That'll be some new stuff. So let's take a break right now from this 1.4 stuff, the rounding and estimating. We'll talk about 1.5 and refresh your memory on how to multiply numbers.